Welcome back, football fans, to another episode of The Prediction Show. I am your host, Joe, founder, designer, developer, marketer, etc. of OddAlerts.com. This is The Prediction Show, where we put together 5 predictions for the weekend using nothing but data. And let me tell you, you are in for a treat this weekend. There are some absolutely fantastic games coming up, and we are covering the Premier League, Bundesliga, Ligue 1, Serie A, and more. If you're new here, you've got the form guide there on the right hand side, which is just going to show you all of the top metrics around Europe. It's showing the last 10 games, looking at all teams, so we can see at the top there Lens, who we'll mention in a moment, second, 26 goals across the last 10 games. And at the bottom here, OddAlerts AI is plucking out all of the key insights and trends and metrics for all upcoming games, again, across Europe's major leagues. So, without further ado, let's get into this video. Now, we'll start by taking a look at last week's selections. We start there, top left, you can see BTTS and Real Madrid to score in the second half. They did concede and they did score just after half time, so that one landed. BTTS in derby against Swansea did not land. It was 2-0. Swansea failed to score for, I think, the first time in 10 away games. QPR to get the most corners and over 1.5 goals in that game. It was 3-1 to Blackburn, and QPR had more corners by some distance, as I remember. Over evens for that one. Nice victory, as was Lens away at Paris FC, 5-0. And we got 3s for Lens to win and over 2.5 goals. That is a tremendous bet there. And the final one, this was a value bet, and if you watched last week's video, I was actually going to go with BTTS first, but I was greedy. I went with the larger of the 2 value bets that we found. It ended 1-1. So if I'm umming and ahhing in this video, I'm going to go with whatever I say first. We start where else with the Premier League. What a night it was for Wolves. Let's just take a quick look at the Premier League table. We can see now for Arsenal, it doesn't look as good as it did. They have messed up more than once, I think, this season already. How costly will it be come the end of the season? Manchester City now just 5 points behind them, and Arsenal have to go to the Etihad as well. 5 points and a game in hand. It's going to be a fantastic title race, I think, and I did say at the start of the season before a ball was kicked that Man City are my favourites. Given how the fixtures have lined up, Manchester City, I think, have got favourable fixtures just generally throughout the season in terms of how they're grouped and stuff. And this weekend is a difficult fixture, no doubt about that, for both of these teams. So we're going to get into that. It is Arsenal away at Tottenham and Manchester City host Newcastle first. Just to add a little bit more pressure for Mikel Arteta and his men, and I think they'll be feeling it. And just quickly as well, at the bottom of the table, West Ham there, they've lost just once in the last 5 games. They are pushing to get out of the relegation zone, and Nottingham Forest and Tottenham are the teams above them. Let's take a look at some of the games in the Premier League then. So we'll discuss a few games and then I will show you my selections for the Premier League. Arsenal against Spurs is where we start after another draw. This is an interesting stat for you. Arsenal's 58 points, which is what they're on right now, after 27 games, is the fewest points that any Premier League leader has had at this stage since Leicester City in 2015-2016. Now, Leicester, of course, went on to win the league, but that season is known for being a season where the top teams seriously underperformed. So for Arsenal to be top with 58 shows that maybe they're not doing as well as they could, and that also, of course, goes for the other teams below them as well. The quality, the bar has been raised in the Premier League, no doubt about that. So Spurs away, North London derby on Sunday. What a big game that is. And Igor Tudor, remember the name potentially. His first game in the dugout as Spurs manager. What a game to take charge of your team for the first time. And he'll be hoping for more of the same because he's managed 7 teams. So he's had a first game for those teams 7 times, 6 wins and 1 draw. What will his record be after Sunday? Get your predictions for that game in the comments. I'm not going to be betting against Spurs in this one. Next up, Manchester City against Newcastle, the other massive game in the title race, and this one is actually being played first, so Man City have got a chance to put real pressure on Mikel Arteta's men. 7 wins from the last 10 for Pep's side, who will be growing in confidence given the result in the week for Arsenal. Newcastle has seen each of the last 7 games end with BTTS. Will they score at the Etihad on Saturday night? These games between these two teams typically and recently have been good games with plenty of goals. This is Newcastle's 4th away game in a row, but you wouldn't guess it looking at their results. 3 wins so far against Spurs, Villa and Qarabağ, scoring 11 goals during that spell. They scored 6, of course, away at Qarabağ on Wednesday night. They might be a bit tired, 4 away games in a row, but can they lift themselves to put a spanner in City's title works? It's going to be difficult because Manchester City have lost just twice at home all season, and that was against Spurs in their first home game of the Premier League season and against Leverkusen in a very, very much rotated team in the Champions League. So whilst Man City host Newcastle and Arsenal are away at Tottenham, 2 very difficult games for the teams currently first and second, what about the team sitting third? Let's take a look at Aston Villa. Straight away, this is a game that I really like the look of. Aston Villa at home, usually so reliable, and they're hosting Leeds. It could end up being a fantastic weekend for Aston Villa. Did you know this is Aston Villa's first 3 o'clock kickoff on a Saturday for over a year? Now, of course, that is because of their Europa League commitments and Champions League commitments in recent times. Odds are as high as 1.9 with some bookmakers for them to get 3 points on Saturday. They have won 69% of home games so far this season, compared to just 8% of games won away from home for Leeds United. The last 5 away games for Leeds have ended with BTTS landing. Will they get a goal at Villa Park? Let us know in the comments. One more game from the Premier League now before we put together a selection, and it is West Ham hosting Bournemouth. Now, only Burnley have faced more shots on target in the last 10 games than Bournemouth. The Cherries are also conceding goals from those shots, with just 1 clean sheet during that same 10-game period. Now, at the start of the season, West Ham away was an easy 3 points, but not now. They have just 1 defeat in 7 games under Nuno, and they are still in the relegation zone, but breathing down the neck of Nottingham Forest, Nuno's former team, of course. And Nottingham Forest, incidentally, play tonight as I record this, so potentially some tired legs and an advantage for West Ham. Now, despite conceding goals, and they are conceding plenty of goals, Bournemouth, they are not losing many games at all. They are unbeaten in 7 at this moment in time, and as you can see, scoring plenty of goals. Interestingly as well, they have seen 1 or more second half goals in a large majority of their recent games, and that was using a new drop down that we have there on the fixture component, where you can just scan first half and second half goals. Now, an incredible stat for West Ham during this run that they're on at this moment in time, the last 10 games, no team in Europe's major leagues has scored first more than West Ham. They have scored first in 9 of the last 10 games played. Crazy. Now, the odds are quite poor for the Premier League, I think, but I'm going to put a couple of my favourite selections in as a double for this week, and here they are. So Aston Villa to win, and West Ham versus Bournemouth BTTS, that is 2.85. West Ham and Bournemouth. Bournemouth seeing plenty of goals in their games, BTTS landing in a large majority of their recent games as well. I think 9 of the last 10 for Bournemouth have ended that way. So let me know what you think about that. They are my Premier League predictions for this week. That is the double that I am on. Next, grab your pizza and your cappuccino, because we're going to Italy. Yes, it is Juventus against Como, and what a week, not in a good way, it has been for Juventus a week to forget for sure. They conceded 5 goals away at Galatasaray, including 4 in the second half after leading at half-time 2-1. Terrible stuff, really, when you think about Juventus, when you think about the great Italian teams in the Champions League, especially Juventus back in the day. For them to be conceding 5 goals away from home, it is not Juventus. They host Como this weekend, and Juventus now are looking for a first victory in 5 games. Como is also winless in 4 games, but with just 1 defeat. It is very rare that Como does not score. They have failed to score just once since December 15th, and even in that game, they amassed 2.2 XG. Cesc Fabregas's side scored in both meetings with Juventus in 2025 and recorded a first victory against them in the reverse fixture this season. So they've beaten them already in this campaign. Will they inflict more pain on the old lady this weekend? Looking at this one, I'm drawn to BTTS. I'm also going to use the new second half goals section that I mentioned before to see that there is a clear trend as well for second half goals when both of these teams are involved. And just going to the form guide, we can see that Como ranks 9th for shots on target against all other major European teams. So here's my selection for that game. Over 3.5 shots on target for Como and a goal in the second half at evens. Don't want to predict the result in this one. I've got a feeling it could be a score draw, or Como could nick it, to be honest. But again, better to not try and predict the result if you don't have to, and you can still get decent value from the game using data above evens for that selection. Let me know what you think in the comments. Grab your frogs because we're going to France. Yes, now to Ligue 1, and we are touching Lens again. We have mentioned them already in this video. We had them in the previous predictions video, and they did very, very well. They are scoring for fun at the moment. And for this one, we're going to be using our XG model. We can see on the form guide here that Lens has averaged 2.37 XG per 90 across the last 10 games. They are hosting Monaco this weekend, who have averaged just 1.05 XG during the same period. On top of this, if you've not followed Ligue 1, Lens have won 91% of their home games, and they sit first now in Ligue 1 after smashing Paris FC 5-0 last weekend. Monaco has failed to score in 4 away games in a row. Will they make it 5? I'm not so sure, to be honest. They're not a terrible team. They're just having a little bit of a bad run. Now, when looking at home versus away data for these two teams, we can see here that the card data is really, really high. The occurrences here. Lens are booked in 91% of home games, and their opponents are booked in 100% of home games. And for Monaco, they are booked in 100% of away games, whilst their opponents in 80%. So my prediction for this one is right here. Lens to continue their amazing form, and both teams to be booked is bang on evens. Next up is Nantes against Le Havre. We mentioned Nantes a few times on previous episodes because they're one of those teams that don't have any issues scoring, but they're just not getting the results at the moment. And I really do like teams like that, because when they come up against a decent team or a semi-decent team, you can get decent odds for BTTS and over 2.5 goals, or the away win and over 2.5 goals. They're facing a team here this weekend in Le Havre that are not in the best of form. So it's actually a good chance for Nantes to turn this around potentially, and I think they probably could nick a result this weekend. They are facing Le Havre, as I say, 1 out of 10 wins on the road for Le Havre. Probably murdering the pronunciation of that, aren't I? Le Havre have scored just 5 goals away from home. Nantes is on a run of 5 defeats in a row. Le Havre, as I mentioned, they are not in a good place away from home, but overall just 1 defeat in the last 6. All but 1 victory this season has come at home for them. Now, just checking the form guide here, we can see that only Wolfsburg have conceded more goals in the last 10 games than Nantes, and that is across all major European leagues. Not a good record to have. Now, this was taken from our AI football predictions page. It says Nantes games average 5.6 cards, over 5.5 cards in 5 of their last 10 and 3 red cards in that span. Le Havre have also seen 3 red cards in their last 10, with both teams showing ill discipline. Card-heavy outcomes look likely. So that is from OddAlerts AI. You can check out the link in the description for all of the tools that we use here, including the referee data, which we will see now for this game. The referee for this one has booked both teams in 100% of his Ligue 1 games, and interestingly, he has actually produced more first half cards than second half cards. He is on his own, really, in that regard. Not many referees do that. Maybe there are more of them in France. We will have to see. You can check it out on the referees page, of course. He's also produced at least one first half card in every single game this season. So he's officiated 11 games and he has produced a yellow card in the first half in every single one. That is pretty rare, at least for the referees that I come across in the games that I stumble on from my filters and whatnot. So with all that said, here's what I'm on for that game. BTTS and both teams to get carded just over evens. Let me know what you think about this one. Let me know what your predictions are for this weekend in the comments. And now we end the video with a double from Ligue 1 and from the Bundesliga. First, we are checking out Strasbourg, who are hosting Lyon. What a game this should be. Lyon, the form team in Europe, really, it has to be said. We can just see on the form guide here that Strasbourg sit 6th for shots on target across all major European leagues, which is very, very good going. As I say, Lyon are the form team. We can see their record right here. They have won every single game played since early December, and what an inspired signing Endrick has been. Strasbourg have failed to score in just one home game this season, and interestingly, Lyon's away form in Ligue 1, has not actually been that good. 3 wins on the bounce as part of this current amazing form, don't get me wrong, but before that, just 2 wins from 8. So there is potential for a regression when this run ends, and it will end. They're not just going to keep winning every single game until the end of the season, right? Our probability model gives this one a BTTS rating of 61.33, meaning 1.65 is a marginal value bet, and that will make up the first part of our double. I really can, just like the model, see both of these teams scoring at the weekend. Now, much like Lyon, Borussia Dortmund are on a fantastic run, and that is where we are going next. They are away at Leipzig this weekend. This should be a cracking game. Dortmund are just doing really, really well. It's just a shame when they have seasons like this that they're competing with Bayern Munich, and Bayern Munich are the only team to have beat them in the Bundesliga this season. Now, Dortmund are away from home, and they've scored in every away game so far this season, including at Bayern Munich. Leipzig's form is pretty patchy, to say the least. They've struggled to put a run together since Christmas. Before the break, they were actually very, very good, looking really hot. Now, not so much. Now, the interesting part here is that the bookies are pricing Dortmund at 3.1. They are outsiders for this game, despite their incredible run so far this season. I think this one, certainly the Bundesliga, any game can go either way, but Dortmund's form leans me towards the double chance. So with that said, this is my final selection that rounds off this video. It is BTTS in the Strasbourg versus Lyon game and Dortmund or draw as a double at 2.69. So I hope you've enjoyed these predictions and selections. Remember to get your comments in and like the video to be entered into a draw to win OddAlerts Pro this weekend. Hope you have a fantastic weekend, and I can't wait to read your predictions in the comments. I'll see you in the next one.